In 1993, a small studio named id Software made a first-person shooter called Doom that forever changed gaming.
This is Game Maker's Toolkit. I'm Mark Brown. Doom is undeniably an influential game. Pretty much every first-person shooter made today can trace its lineage back to this gory game about blasting away at demons from hell. But the question is, do we even remember what made Doom so much fun to play? I mean, there was probably more to it than
badass demons, big effing guns, and moving really, really fast.
Many people will point to the game's non-linear level design that had you scouting about stages for keys to unlock coloured doors. And some will point to the bevy of secrets which were stashed behind fake walls and unlocked by hidden buttons. Or maybe they'll highlight the traps and monster closets that trolled first-time players. And all those aspects contributed to Doom's terrific design. But I think the secret is something more fundamental. I think it's in the nitty-gritty of the combat, and how every fight becomes something of a dance of careful positioning and quick-fire decisions. And your dance partners are these iconic monsters. As Matthias Worch, a designer at 2K Games who started his career making levels for Doom, puts it, the reason Doom works so well is because each enemy represents a distinct, consistent, and discernible behaviour that can be learned. So you've got the zombie men and shotgun guys, who are weak but use hit scan weapons which do immediate damage to you. That's in contrast to the imps, who are a bit more powerful, but their fireballs soar slowly across the map and can be dodged with the smart use of strafing. Demons and their invisible counterparts, spectres, don't have any weapons, so they chase you down and do melee damage. A bit like the Lost Souls, but those charge directly at you, so you have to sidestep to avoid them. Cacodemons and Barons of Hell also use projectile attacks, but they have an enormous amount of health. This is what Deus Ex designer Harvey Smith calls orthogonal unit differentiation, which basically means that the different elements in the game, in this case the enemies, have completely unique attributes, rather than just being more or less powerful versions of each other. Orthogonal meaning statistically independent. And what this means, according to Smith, is that you start playing intentionally and making meaningful tactical decisions, not just randomly reacting to what's going on. Those are decisions about prioritization. Imps and cacodemons may be powerful, but you can dodge their fireballs, so you learn to focus first on the zombie men and their hit scan weapons, and the demons who deal melee damage. They're decisions about positioning. The hit scan enemies encourage you to take cover, fireballs and lost souls encourage you to move laterally, and demons make you move backwards. At times, Doom feels like a bullet hell shooter where you can avoid damage altogether just by racing to the right spot. Not to mention that enemies can hurt each other, so lining one enemy in front of the other is a handy high-level strategy. And their decisions about resources. Shotguns work great close up, but the chain gun is better from a distance. The rocket launcher is a killer, but the projectile can soar past quick-moving enemies. You have to think critically about which gun to use and when. There are also decisions unique to Doom's design. Every enemy has a pain chance, where if they get hit during an attack animation, there's a possibility they won't fire, so enemies with a high pain chance, like the cacodemon, can be needled with bullets to slow their fire. And as enemies from different species will attack each other, you can lure one group of foes to fight another. Something interesting happens when you visualize these orthogonal attributes. If we throw together a graph of, say, damage dealt and speed of attack, we can plot the weak but immediate hit scan enemies, the more powerful but slow projectile foes, the melee monsters, and the Baron of Hell. When shown like this, we get to see how Doom offers a wide possibility space, a term SimCity inventor Will Wright uses to describe all the things you can do in a game, or in this case, all the things that can be done to you. Compare that to more modern shooters where enemies are essentially the same guy with thicker and thicker body armour, perhaps with a shotgun guy who charges at you if you're lucky, and you can see just how much ground Doom covers. Some games do carry the torch of unique and orthogonal enemies, of course. In Halo, you have monsters like the Grunts who scatter and panic if the more powerful aliens are killed, Elites who have regenerating health, Jackals who carry big round shields, and hunters who often attack in pairs and go berserk if their partner is killed. Like in id Software's game, the different enemies have different behaviours, different strengths and different weaknesses, causing you to pick your targets, to think about how to fight, and to move about the battlefield deliberately. What really makes this work in both Halo and Doom is that there is only a small number of enemies, about 7 in Doom, which is, perhaps coincidentally, the number of objects an average human can hold in working memory. Deliberate or not, this meagre cast of monsters means almost every player can remember how to fight and evade each foe. It certainly helps that the monsters have very distinct visual designs, both in colour and silhouette, from the hunchbacked pink demons to the massive red cacodemons to the weird lanky imp. It's easy to quickly scan a room and figure out what you're dealing with. They also have somewhat unique sounds, like this for the zombie man, this for the imp, and this for the demon. A shame then that various other creatures share that same distinct noise. A game that does this exceptionally well is Half-Life 2, where an orchestra of iconic sounds like the Manhack's noisy whir and the dying Combine soldier's flatlining alarm let you know exactly what's going on in the heat of a frantic battle. Anyway, back to Doom's cast of monsters. Such diversity creates a large but simple to understand toolset that level designers can combine with architecture to create a huge variety of combat setups, says JP LeBreton, an ex-Irrational designer and self-described Doom hipster. In many shooters, the only way to change up combat encounters is to add more and more foes, whereas Doom can offer unique fights simply by offering different combinations of monsters and in different shapes and sizes of arena. In this room, you're set upon by a bunch of imps and zombie men. The best way to deal with this scenario is to run around the room, killing the hit-scan shooters and dodging the fireballs, and then turning your attention to the imps. Elsewhere, demons are deployed in tight claustrophobic mazes, and enemies with massive numbers of hit points are surrounded by cannon fodder foes to encourage crowd control. So this is, in my mind, what makes Doom tick. It's that small cast of iconic enemies which encourage different behaviours and distinct ways of moving. In play, this means your mind is making dozens of tactical decisions a minute, intentional choices, driven by your knowledge of how the game works. This is Doom's legacy, and more games could stand to learn from it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a comment, give it a like, or even help support the show on Patreon. Game Maker's Toolkit is funded exclusively by its viewers, including these gold tier supporters.